The only intelligent response to the ongoing gift of life is gratitude. For all that has been, a better human says, thank you. For all that is to come, a better human says, yes.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
All right, and we're here. Welcome to the Better Humanology Podcast. My name is Jerred Moon, and with me, as always, is Talon Schwan. What's up, Talon?
Hey, Jared, how's it going?
It's going well. Always happy to be doing the Better Humanology Podcast. If you're new here, welcome. We have one aim, one goal, and that is to make ourselves better and to make anyone listening better, a better human being, better version of themselves. Not better than anyone else, just better than yourself, better than you were yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, and if this is an hour-long podcast, better than you were an hour ago. That's the real goal. All right, so let's get into it today. We have... I'm really excited for this episode. We have some stuff planned, some surprises for Talon that he doesn't even know is coming. It's just going to be some really, really cool stuff. But first, I think we have to cat out of the bag here, like elephant in the room, whatever you want to use. Monday episode, man.
Right, yeah. This isn't our usual Thursday release.
Yeah, we're trying out something new. I think it's going to be good.
I think it makes a lot of sense if we are giving out weekly challenges and giving you, what you can do each week to get better. That starts off on a Monday because people automatically are going to be more in tune with how they're going to, plan their week out, how they're going to plan out what they can do, what they can get better at on a Monday.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Maybe, you kind of drag towards the end of the week. Kind of,
yeah.
Maybe beat down by Friday, and maybe you're picking the podcast. I mean, it's published on Thursday. Maybe you're picking it up on Friday. You just don't have as much motivation. So Monday, we're here, and you're going to get it done. Crush this week.
That's right.
Send you off into your Better Human week with this Monday release episode. All right, let's challenge it up, man. You got any, actually, if you don't mind.
I probably don't.
Can I give a Murph update real fast?
Yeah. No, please do update us on how your Murphs are going. What number are you on now?
I had just finished 32 this weekend, and I actually haven't given an update because I didn't give one in the previous episode because we're doing the new formats or whatever, and so I'll give them briefly. But for anyone who is new, I'm doing Murph every single week on Saturday for a year, 52 total Murphs, and the workout is run a mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, run a mile, and you wear a 20-pound vest if you have it. So it's a fun workout, and Talon and I did it for the podcast, and we're pressing onward. So I was traveling 2 weeks ago. I was in North Carolina, and literally
good old North Carolina,
good old NC, literally could not find a place to do pull-ups. There wasn't a tree limb. There wasn't the hotel we were at had a fitness center, but I really don't even want to call it a fitness center because they didn't have a pull-up bar. Like, what is that? It's it was like basically a basement room where they shoved a treadmill and a jug of water and said it was a fitness center.
Jeez.
Anyway, so I ended up doing fingertip pull-ups on an I-beam. You know what an I-beam is? So it looks like a capital I.
Okay.
It's like a metal. And I have a picture of this on my Instagram, but it's basically I had to grab the bar just with the tips of my fingers. And it was very, very painful. My hands were super swollen afterwards, and my wedding ring, I couldn't get my wedding ring off of my hand for several hours post this Murph, and it took me substantially longer than normal, and I didn't even have a vest on. So it was very, very challenging Murph. So if you do want to add some sort of variation to your Murph, if anyone else out there is doing it, try the fingertip pull-up Murph. It's
To die for.
It's to die for your hands.
For your hands, yeah.
But the more exciting update, I just finished 32 this week, and I finally did it. I broke the sub 30-minute barrier on vested Murph, so wearing a vest. I finished in 28:27, which was a goal I set at the very beginning. I wanted to see if it was even possible for me to go sub 30 minutes on Murph, and I did. So I'm very happy about that one.
You crushed it, too.
Crushed it.
It wasn't even close.
Wasn't even close. 28:27.
Yeah, a whole minute and a half.
But I do want to, I want to bring up kind of the behind the scenes on this, because maybe you just hear me talking about Murph and it's like, oh yeah, that was easy, cool, whatever. But here's the deal. I worked out Friday. Mm-hmm. You know what? Let's back up all the way back.
Yeah.
All of that. Like way far back. I started working out when I was 13, 14. And
from Friday.
I remember my very first workout. I'll skip to that. My second workout that I ever did, my uncle, or my cousin, I call him uncle because he's an older second cousin, but he sent me a bodybuilding routine that I was supposed to do.
Oh, okay.
This is how I started working out. He introduced it to me or whatever. And there's a point to this story. I'll get to it, I promise.
Yeah.
And he had me doing just like a full-on, like, basically what he was doing. And this was a long time ago. It wasn't like, the internet was around, but we didn't utilize it as much as we would today. Like, if you had a question, it was ask other people who knew, not necessarily just Google it, Right. And so he sent me this packet, and my biceps were so sore, I couldn't open my arms. Like, I could not straighten my arms. They were so sore after doing my first actual bodybuilding workout years and years ago. And Friday I did some German volume training, which is essentially just high volume stuff, and it trained the arms a lot. And because I'm experimenting with this new thing, I'll cut that whole story out. Anyway, my arms got really freaking sore. And then Saturday, and then I did Murph, and my biceps are back to the level of soreness that I haven't felt since I was 14 years old. I cannot open my arms comfortably. I had to take ibuprofen today to be able to function and rearrange things in my garage, and I've just slathered them with different things that make them feel better.
Okay,
so
I got a question here. At what point is there ever a point in getting better where it's too much? Where maybe you're having to take ibuprofen because you're working out so hard.
No, there's no.
No. I got way better. I'm so much better right now.
Well, that was stupidity on my part to put so much volume back to back, but I didn't want to. I said from the very beginning I didn't want Murph to be on this pedestal, right? So I didn't want to be I trained really. I'm not going to train really hard today because Murph is tomorrow. And so I thought about that on Friday. I was like, no, dude, just do the really hard workout and then go get back at it on Saturday, do Murph again. But no, I don't think that you should. If you have to take ibuprofen after every workout, then you're probably doing something wrong. So that's I don't think I've done that. I don't know the last time I've taken ibuprofen after a workout. I normally just deal with it.
When you're 14, maybe.
Yeah, maybe when I was 14. Yeah. Maybe.
Okay. So it was the worst ever.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say my arms are on a whole new level of sore that I haven't experienced in a long time.
I'm just trying to say you PR'd after a 30-second time, and that's a good example of how becoming a better human sometimes takes more than you can plan for. You didn't plan to do 32, at the beginning. You weren't just hey, you know what? I'm going to start doing Murphs, and probably by around the 30 mark, maybe the 50 mark, I'll start being able to just really dominate Murph. But you didn't know. You just jumped into it and started doing it. And it took a long freaking time before you got your PR.
32 Murphs to go sub 30.
Right.
I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. Okay.
I think it's a great thing.
So I went way overboard with the story, man. Go ahead with your challenge. I apologize.
Okay, yeah, good. It falls right in line with what we're talking about. So my challenge this week is pretty simple. It'll get into kind of what we're talking about later on in the show for the latter half. But I want you guys to try a new sport this week. So I know it sounds probably more simple than you even thought, even after I said it's going to be simple, but you even just do it for an hour. So it's a really small challenge, but not all of us are out there playing sports. When I go to the gym, when I drive by some sports fields, they're like nobody's playing sports. It's like everybody's like on the treadmill, glued on to what's going on with the TV, with like what happened in the last debate or this or that or what's going on. What happened with the sports games this weekend. Nobody's playing sports anymore. Everybody's doing it seems like their little bit just to get by and to keep, probably in the same shape they've been in for their whole lives instead of becoming, a better human and getting in better shape. And so for me, I've been going back to picking up playing sports again. I know it's been a big part of me in my whole life, playing basketball and football and different sports. And so I've just realized that the benefits are really helpful for me, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. But I want you to pick up a new sport. It could be as small as going to your local gym or going to a local maybe even just basketball, tennis courts in your neighborhood near you, and shooting around a little bit and wait until a couple people come out there, or maybe trying CrossFit, and maybe if you didn't do that Murph exercise a couple of weeks back when we challenged you guys, maybe to go ahead and do it this week. Or there's options like volleyball at your local bar. Sometimes they have that kind of thing, and that can be really fun and addictive and helpful. And then you could also like rent that racquetball. Racquetball.
I'm all about that.
Yeah, equipment from your gym, and then give it a try because it's pretty good. It's a pretty good workout.
It is. All right, man. Maybe I will head to the Globo gym this week and play some racquetball.
Just an hour.
Just an hour.
You need to get a taste.
It's also going to cost me like $20 to go in there for 1 hour, but whatever. Okay. I have fitness challenge this week. So I mentioned German volume training a moment ago. Something I'm experimenting with, and a lot of people who are in Garage Gym Athlete, currently in the grind, who are finished the grind, which is one of the 12-week cycles we were doing. They know about it all too well. But I want to challenge everyone else out there to get some GVT in. You could look up German volume training if you wanted to and the benefits. But let's not overcomplicate it. Essentially, what you're going to be doing is 10 sets of 10 repetitions, and you're going to superset. So you're going to have strict press, so standing strict press, just pressing a barbell right over your head, and pull-ups. So you'll do 10 strict press overhead, and then you do 10 pull-ups, 10 sets of 10 reps. Pretty simple, but it's extremely high volume and will be pretty brutal. The weight, anywhere on the strict press, if you know your 1 rep max, 40 to 50% of your 1 rep max. You should hit it up, man. You should hit it up.
Yeah, I think I'll try the pull-ups in fingertip fashion as well.
Yeah, make it just that much more challenging. All right, and mental toughness challenge. I cooked this one up on my own here, and I want to make sure it makes sense. So I'm going to kind of use you as a sounding board for the mental toughness challenge.
Use me.
I want people this week to say yes to more, but not in a...
I've seen that movie.
Not the yes man sense. Don't just say yes to everything. I'm talking about in your self-talk. Okay. Because there's a moment in everyday life where you make a decision to say no to something. And so it's really being aware of that fact when you're saying no. And it could be a small thing. Like, I don't know how everyone's household works or, whatever, but like maybe you're like, the trash is full and you don't take it out. You said no in your head because you're like, it's cold outside or it's dark outside or whatever it is for where you live. Or, yeah, maybe you didn't put that dish in the dishwasher, or maybe you don't do that workout because, face it, most people don't want to work out. There's a million reasons not to do that. So just be aware of what you're saying no to and try to say yes to more things. So does that... It's kind of vague in a sense, but it's almost an awareness type thing, which I know you like. Just kind of thinking more about... I don't think people realize how many times they do this in a day, where they're like, they actually come to the crossroads, whether they know it or not. They're making a decision, but it feels very small because it's just in their brain and no one else really knows about it. So say yes, do the action, have the discipline, as opposed to saying no.
Are there examples of like things that you shouldn't say yes to and things that you should?
Shouldn't say yes to?
Yeah.
No, because like I said, it's all self-talk, so you know what's good for you, what's going to make you better, or something that you should be doing.
Right.
I'm not saying that if someone, like the movie Yes Man, I'm not saying if someone comes up to you and is like, let's do this ridiculous thing, you have to say yes to it. I think that's ridiculous. But no, so things you know you should be doing in your life.
Right. Okay.
Because I think very few people hit the end of their day and they're like, you know what? I think I did everything I was supposed to do perfectly today. I don't think anyone really ends their day that way. If you do, give me a call ASAP. We need to have you on the show.
Yes, that'd be a good interview.
That would be good. The perfect human.
Right. We're not better humans anymore. We're just trying to become whoever this guy or gal is.
All right, so does that mental toughness challenge make sense? Because I think it takes more work than you realize, and it's going to be very challenging to stay constantly aware throughout your day.
Yeah, I mean, you tell me if my examples I'm coming up with in my head really fit what you're talking about, because for me, I have to think of some examples for, like, to hypothetical it out for how I'm going to do it. For me, it's like if I'm at work and boss is like, hey, I want you to lead this next thing we're going to do for the rest of the week, and, you got it, you're in charge, run with it. And a lot of people might be like, no, this has been a tough week for me, or, let Kevin have it, or Jolene have it because they didn't get the last one or something like that. Or, or is it more like, I guess you did use a couple of examples, but like taking the trash out or something like that. Or maybe it's like, I really should make my bed, but I usually say no to that when I wake up in the morning instead of saying yes. I mean,
yes,
is it both of them fit?
Yeah, that all fits.
All fits. Okay.
I think that you mentioned a great trigger there that would help people become even more aware. You said the boss example, if someone said, I had a tough week this week or whatever. Anytime you start to justify and or make an excuse, that should be your trigger you're about to say no to something.
Right.
Like, you know what? I should go outside and work out right now, but it was a hard day. I'd rather have a beer and watch TV. I deserve the beer and the TV, right? It's like, no, go. Anytime you start justifying in your head like that, there's something that you're saying no to, just go say yes to it instead. Just this week, see how you like it. See how you like it. Saying yes to more things that make you better, right. and then maybe try it again the next week. Who knows?
1 week, Tony Robbins. The next week, you got Yes Man Jim Carrey over here.
Yep. I wish that movie wasn't created.
I know.
Okay, book recommendation, man.
All right, hit me with it.
All right, the book is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And he, it's a really great book. And I don't actually want to talk about the book too much because we're going to roll right into an exercise. But what I do want to say about the book is you should definitely go buy it. It's all about working in your unique genius, finding your unique genius, your unique abilities that are going to make you happier, better. This guy has some pretty amazing stuff. He brings up so many different concepts about just abundance, success, love, all of these things. And it's pretty interesting. And like I said, I don't want to get too much into the book because I'm going to kind of walk you through the book in a short amount of time.
Awesome.
And it's not a synopsis because the whole book is pretty practical, so I like it, right? So it's very practical. He has what he calls in the book is most people have an upper limit problem.
Okay. And
that's a big premise of the book. And I'm not trying to cheat this guy's work at all by basically spilling out the whole book over the next several minutes with you, but definitely go buy the book. I highly recommend it because I've actually read it twice now. Once just pure audiobook, doing other things, multitasking, getting that gray matter in my brain. Right? And then the second time I actually sat down with a pen and a pad and really did a deep dive on myself through this question and this process. And now we're going to do it with Talon. So, and feel free if you ever
just got so hyped.
If you want to throw it back on me or whatever, you feel free to ask me the question back and I'll answer it.
Do I need a pen and paper?
You don't have to, but you can if you want to take your own notes.
Okay,
so this is a big part of what I want to do on the episode today. So everyone else, if you do want to get a pen and paper and go through this exercise, it is 100% an exercise. So Talon and I are going to walk through it. You guys can walk through it too, maybe later, whatever. But it's all about destroying your upper limit problem, finding more success, more abundance, and working in your unique genius. So let's get started.
Fellow traveler today.
Fellow traveler. All right, so first I have to explain a few other things. So there's the upper limit problem, and do you kind of understand that concept? It's almost like self-sabotage in a sense. Like, people won't let themselves get to the next level that they're capable of because they have X problem, and that's what we're gonna find your upper limit problem. That's part of it. But do you kind of understand that concept?
So I kind of see it as like a self-imposed glass ceiling.
Yeah, essentially that's what it is.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so there are other zones, and I think this is good to know. So he says most people have like a zone of competence,
okay,
and you're doing these things, but someone else could be doing them. And so maybe it's something that, whatever, you're a competent human being, yes, you can do this thing, but someone else could be doing it. And then there's also the zone of excellence, and maybe you are great at it, but it's not where you're ultimately going to thrive. And so this was really big for me because I feel like sometimes I might operate in my zone of excellence, which is, like I said, you might be really good at it, but it's still not where you truly will thrive and feel the best in your life. And then there is the zone of genius. And so reaching the zone of genius is like, first, finding it is the hardest part. That's what we're going to try to do with this exercise. But operating in your zone of genius is just kind of like, it's your work. It's like your life's work. It's like what you're meant to do, and you feel really comfortable doing what's in your zone.
Goes really good with our last topic.
I know, yeah, it kind of fits good with finding your purpose, right?
Perfect.
All right, so you got all those concepts down. They make perfect sense.
Yeah, competence, excellence, and genius, right?
Perfect. And then the upper limit problem. Yep.
Upper limit problem.
All right, so we got that. Next, we move to barriers. So a lot of people have different barriers that keep them from. It is their upper limit problem, their upper limit barrier, if you want to call it. He doesn't call it that in the book, but that's the best way I can explain it. So you have these hidden barriers that are kind of stifling you to reaching that next level of success.
Okay.
And there are 4 of them. The first one is you feel that you are fundamentally flawed. The second one is disloyalty and abandonment. 3 is more success would equal or mean that you were going to be a bigger burden. And then the 4th is the crime of outshining others around you or whatever. And I can definitely, I'll hop into those just a little bit deeper real fast and let you think about it for a minute, because supposedly everyone's going to have one of these barriers, right? And I'll share mine too. So feeling like you're fundamentally flawed, meaning like you think that you're just hard broke. There's something wrong with you as a human being, that you can't reach that next level of success. You can't do this, you can't do that, because there's just something, whether it's genetically or something happened to you. You are just flawed. You can't handle that. That's the first one. The second one, disloyalty and abandonment. This could be, like if you have like you broke the unspoken rules in your family to get where you are. Maybe there's a certain route that you're supposed to go in your family. Like you might be a successful person, but do you feel like maybe you're falling short of the expectations your parents had for you? That was a great example he gave in the disloyalty and abandonment section. And so, and this is that was one I definitely thought of, because originally I'd wanted to be a pilot for a long time, and I was going for that, and I'm like, well, my dad's super happy that I'm successful now in what I'm doing at, but I wonder if maybe that was the expectation he had. But I really don't actually feel that way. But I did go down that journey, that path a little bit to see if I did feel that way. The third one, more success equals bigger burden. That one makes sense. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like, you think that you being more successful is going to be a burden to your either immediate family or family around you or whatever. And then the fourth one, the crime of outshining.
Money, more problems.
Right. And then the fourth one is don't shine too much, or you're going to make others look bad. And there's 2 different ways that this can happen. You can turn down the volume of your genius where others don't feel threatened, or you can continue to shine but turn down the volume of your enjoyment to appear to be suffering, where you get empathy instead of jealousy.
Very These are deep.
They are deep. We're going deep. This isn't like a push-up exercise.
No, this is not.
No. Grab a drink of my tea real fast. So I've explained all those. Does any one of them resonate with you right off the bat?
Two.
So disloyalty and abandonment.
It sounds terrible. That's the first one. I think when I heard you read them off the first time, I would have been like, yeah, definitely not that one. But then when you explained it, I've talked about how I've always had, and how I feel like a lot of people end up feeling pressure from a lot of those people around them. I think parents is a good example of that. Okay,
great. Do you want to share that any further? Why you feel disloyalty and abandonment? Or
see, I don't feel like I'm abandoned or
right. Okay, how about we just call it number 2? Why?
Right. Yeah. So number 2, I think resonates well with me because, we've talked about on the show several times. We were both, officers in the military, and both of our fathers were officers in the military as well. So I think, in my example, I don't know if there was an expectation that was, my whole life to do something like that, but it definitely became an expectation later on in life. And so I think when I left the military, that kind of told me okay, I was, pursuing these goals based off expectations more so from the family and not for what I had for myself.
Okay. And do you feel like continuing today that's still like a upper limit problem as described earlier? Maybe you feel like you're not pursuing the direction that your family feels like you should be pursuing?
I think it's something that still weighs on me, yeah.
Okay, cool. That wasn't very hard. You went right to it. Cool. All right, so now we're going to hop into the signs that you might have an upper limit problem. Okay. And he claims that everybody does, and I think that everyone probably does, but he just goes through some things that that would depict whether or not you probably have an upper limit problem. So worrying about a lot of different things, but he breaks it down to ways that really resonated with me in the book. And so he was talking about how he just had this really successful thing happen for him in business, and then he was sitting there in his chair. He was kind of happy about it for 1 minute, and then he remembered that his daughter was at this summer camp. And then it was her first year at a summer camp. And then he started worrying about, oh man, she must be feeling really bad. Blah, blah, blah. He called the summer camp and was all, freaked out and all this stuff. And he went from this immediate enjoying himself, high, to the self-sabotage of not letting himself enjoy his moment anymore. And this is kind of the roller coaster he says human beings do to themselves. This self-sabotage where we're always not letting ourselves enjoy success or the next level or whatever, because it's kind of programmed in there. We don't even know it's there. That's what the whole point of this book is about. Anyway, right. So worrying, criticism and blame, even if that's criticizing yourself, not just criticizing other people. And one of them I found very interesting was your health or getting sick. He says that if you're getting sick frequently and there doesn't really, even colds or whatever, could be a trigger. Yeah. And then another one was integrity breach. So not necessarily if you're having them, but no, I guess if you do have an integrity breach. And he brought up a story of a guy cheating on his wife and blah, blah, blah. And I think there was another one, but it really relates back to the whole disloyalty and abandonment of just we're all told stories in our lives of, I don't know if I really have any of these in my family, but I know I've probably heard of them. So maybe you're thinking of quitting everything you're doing to go be an artist, and right. But then there's some story in your family where, oh yeah, well, Uncle Rick, twice removed or whatever, he quit everything he was doing to go to New York to be an artist, and he ended up as a bum. These, you ever heard kind of negative stories? You ever think about doing something, there's some negative, what the hell does that have to do with me kind of story, but someone wants to tell it? Yeah. And so those are the 5. So worry, criticism and blame, getting sick, integrity breach, and the stories. I guess these stories you've heard before, but you start telling them to yourself. Anytime you want to go do something, you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to start my own business, but yeah, Joe down the street started his own business and he killed himself, so I probably shouldn't start a business. You know,
Right.
like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So do you see any of those in your daily life?
No, not really. I mean, maybe I criticize myself probably more than I should.
You know, that's what I got out of when I did this with myself. I was like, because I don't think I worry a lot. I really don't get sick that much. Integrity breaches, no, and I don't have a ton of those stories. But man, I will criticize the shit out of myself if you let me. So,
Right.
definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, man. You're doing well here.
Yeah, am I?
Yeah.
Am I passing so far?
Yeah. Okay, then. So I'm gonna ask you these questions, and these are gonna be 100% rhetorical for you and anyone listening to this podcast. Because then I'm gonna ask you a different set of questions that are very similar to try and actually narrow down what your genius is. And we're moving through this very, very fast. So I do recommend everyone gets the book, because right now I've just introduced what the hell an upper limit problem is, and that's basically you have some problem that won't let you enjoy success, moving to the next level. There are all these barriers on why you could have it, and then there are all these symptoms in your daily life that mean that you probably are doing this to yourself. So I'm going to ask these 3 rhetorical questions, or 4, and you just think about them, and then we're going to hop into another set of questions to really try and pull it out. So what do I most love to do, so much so you can do it for long periods without getting tired or bored? So that's the first question. What do I most love to do, so much so you can do it for long periods without getting tired or bored? Okay. I'm going to read each one twice, just so everyone hears it. All right, the second question. What work do I do that doesn't feel like work? What work do I do that does not feel like work? The third question, in my work, what provides the highest ratio of abundance and satisfaction to the amount of time spent? So even if you only do a little bit of it, it produces a big value, either in your happiness or your success or how you feel. So even if you only got to do this for 15 minutes today, the payoff is going to be huge for you. So one more time, in my work, what provides the highest ratio of abundance and satisfaction to the amount of time spent? So even if you only do a little bit, it produces a big value. And then the last thing that you need to start thinking about, question number 4, what is your unique ability? So what sets you apart? What makes you different? And it doesn't have to be like, I have this ability, no one else has it. Like, there are a million writers out there in this world. But that could still be your unique ability, because writing could be your unique thing. It doesn't matter, but it might be unique to you. So what is your unique ability? All right. Been mulling that one over?
I have.
Okay. These are going to be the hard-hitting questions.
Okay.
All right. They're going to be hard to answer on the spot, and if you can't, don't worry. Actually, I did this. My wife and I flew to North Carolina recently.
Y'all flew?
Yep. I listened to half this book and did the notebook on the way there, and then on the way back, I finished the book on the flight and did all this. And I actually talked to her about the book, during the flight, and actually I had her help me go through some of this, because it's just hard for me to pick this stuff out. So if you're like, we're not going to get somewhere tonight, that's fine. At least everyone gets these questions out there.
Okay.
So this is kind of a fill in the blank.
Okay.
I'm at my best when I am what? I'm going to read all of them, and you can kind of think of them.
Okay.
And so all of these are going to sound very similar. Like I'm just rephrasing the question almost, but it's supposed to be going like peeling an onion, going down layer by layer. So the first one, I'm at my best when I'm blank. When I'm at my best, the exact thing I'm doing is what? So it goes from bigger picture to a little bit smaller picture. Then when I'm doing that, the thing I love most about it is what? So those are the 3 questions. So I'm at my best when I'm what? What's that for you, Talon?
I put focus.
You're at your best when you are focused.
I'm focused.
Okay. When you are at your best, so when you are focused, the exact thing that you're doing is what?
Well, my first thought, and I didn't get too far on these because these ones went a little faster than the first four, was explaining something to someone else.
Okay. So I'm at my best when I am focused. When I am focused, the exact thing that I am doing is explaining something to someone else.
Right.
Perfect. Okay, when I am explaining something to someone else, the thing I love most about it is what?
The aha moment on their face when I was able to successfully explain something to them that maybe they didn't know beforehand. And I can see it that they learned something because of me.
Perfect, man. That's awesome. So, maybe
it works. I like this book.
Maybe that's
what was his name again?
The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Yeah.
Gay Hendricks.
Gay Hendricks, yep. All right, let me just make sure, go over my, he covers a lot of other stuff in the book. The Enlightened No, so saying no to things that are not in your unique genius. So essentially, okay, if you're not explaining something or teaching somebody something to get that aha moment with them, maybe you shouldn't be doing other things that aren't that. And he talks about recommitting to your zone of genius frequently because we all stray away from it and then kind of have to come back to it because there's life. Life is there, right? Then he talks about Einstein time, which is essentially Einstein's theory of relativity. And I think the easiest way to explain it is just saying, I think he goes way long-winded in the book when you really could just say the theory of relativity. So like what could you do that feels like, it felt like 5 minutes to you, but maybe it's 5 hours, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and then what I really like is he gets into, we won't cover this one, but the very last chapter of the book, he gets into how to defeat upper limit problems within your relationships. With your spouse and stuff like that.
We don't have any of those in this podcast.
Right. Yeah, it just might be a little more personal, right? All right. Did you enjoy the exercise?
I did. That was fun. Made me think a little bit. And it's funny because we didn't talk about my four. We wrote down my favorite thing to do on that number one answer was think. So it forced me to think. I love thinking.
Perfect. Cool, man. I think it's fun. I think it's great for people to go through it. And the biggest part of the entire book, I think, is just the realizing that most of us have this upper limit problem. We won't let ourselves enjoy things. Yeah, we won't let ourselves be complimented. We won't let ourselves do all this stuff, and it's because we have these upper limit problems. And maybe it's one of the hidden barriers, or maybe we just have it because we have it. And it's a great exercise to walk through. If you had 10 minutes to go through what Talon and I just went through, I highly recommend it, or definitely snag the book.
I like it a lot because the terminology itself is very positive. Upper limit problem makes it sound like, this is the only thing holding you back from becoming who you're supposed to be or becoming successful. Whereas, like you say, a barrier, a roadblock, or wall, or whatever you're going to call it, it's just got a negative connotation to it.
Yeah, and what I love, one of the big things I love about it is the zone of excellence. That was a big aha for me. It's just, I could probably have a tendency to work inside of something I'm pretty good at, and could do pretty well, but ultimately it's not my thing. It's not my unique genius or whatever. So, really good book. Really good book.
Cool. Good suggestion there this week, Jerred. Thanks for running me through that deal. This week I kind of mentioned it earlier, what I want to talk about, but something that's very near and dear to my heart. I mean, it's not just something I like to do. It's something obviously I participate in watching and, fantasy sports and all that crazy stuff. So I get really into it. But it's just, I said it there, it's sports in general, like the concept of going out and competing against others, against your peers, and trying to, overwhelm them with athletic ability or with strength or with coordination. Really, either one-on-one, where you're doing all that just internally, kind of, and doing those processes, or you're with a team of others doing those things. So what thoughts do you have about how sports can make people better, Jerred?
I mean, there's all sorts of, I think it would go hand in hand. I think that people should do individual sports, like you mentioned, and I think they should do team sports, because I think there are two different dynamics there that can make you better in a lot of different ways. I did both team sports and individual sports. I gravitate more towards individual sports. That could be, it's a good thing, and it's probably a personality trait flaw of mine, to want to be just the guy who does everything. It's not a good thing, I'm just saying, but you learn a lot about mental toughness in individual sports. That, you know, there's a ton of mental toughness training out there you could find. Like if you were to go to Amazon right now and search for mental toughness training, you're going to see that the books that have been written on mental toughness by sports psychologists and stuff, it all gravitates towards like golfers and tennis players. Like the vast majority of mental toughness writing is for golfers and tennis players, because, you know, maybe they're up against the hardest opponent of them all, and that's yourself. And so I think that definitely is a dynamic. I think getting good at that, also because we talked about earlier, being able to blame other people or whatever, you can't do that in an individual sport. Like you're it, take ownership. You missed it, you failed, you lost. And then team, the hardest thing in the world is, we've talked about before, leadership, you know, and followership. They're equally hard. And that team dynamic, sometimes it is easier to just kind of shift the blame. Like, oh, well, we kind of lost because that guy wasn't doing his thing, or they weren't doing his thing. That's not how you should play on a team. Like learning how to actually play on a team, and take ownership as a team, that's also something that's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point you bring up at the end. I mean, because there's nothing that we really do in this life that we do on our own. I mean, really, not at this point in the history of mankind. There's not just too many people on the earth where we're going to be doing something that's going to be completely 100%. Nobody's involved, just ourselves. There really isn't. There are always support, types on the side, or there's usually a team putting things together. So developing the ability to work with others, even just in a small spatial sense, like you'll learn when you're playing sports, I think really helps. But for me, I've pulled up a couple of key points for me and why I believe it. I mean, I know you, like you said, you've played sports a lot your entire life, especially individual sports, but I know you played some team sports as well. We've played some of those together. But for me, I mean, I've mostly been drawn to the team sports. And I think probably because of that leadership aspect you bring up. And I think I've always been interested and passionate about learning how to lead others and trying to. But for me, sports is special because it forces you to push yourself, I think, much more so than, at least for me, I think for the majority of people out there, than I'd push myself if I was doing a workout on my own, or if I was working even on the sport on my own, if I was just like shooting baskets, or if I was kicking the soccer ball, if I was working on juggling or whatever I was doing, I'm not going to be pushing myself anywhere near as hard as I'm going to push myself if I'm competing against others. We've talked about that concept before on the show. But I think a couple other things is it gives you confidence. I mean, when I would find success on the field, it would give me lots of confidence that would translate to what I'm doing, off the field or off the court, like at work or in my relationships. It would just give me more confidence in general. Just kind of like when you have a really good, workout and you feel kind of that pump. I think it's just that probably maybe times 2 or times 3, or, it's a little bit more heightened because you beat some other people. But I think sometimes you can get confidence even in losing. Because you can get more focused and figure out, okay, now, hey, if I really want to improve, maybe it is my physical fitness and I'm playing, X sport. Well, I get confidence that as long as I keep with the sport, I didn't win, but pushing myself more and more is going to help me improve and meet my goals of becoming more physically fit. And the other two, improve spatial awareness, and it will literally improve, like you talked about, leadership. So it improves your not just ability to work with others as a team, but your ability to maybe follow commands or think of ideas together and mold them in the heat of the moment, or in the middle of the game, and overcome that objective. And spatial awareness it's one of those things that maybe it's like a fluffy term because it's like your knowledge that you can't really put a finger on, right? It's like your ability to move through this space and have coordination, but it's more than that, right? It's like your ability to feel confident in how you can do that. It's like I think for me, it's extremely important. I feel like it's how someone like me, who's not probably the greatest athlete in the world, not even close, can compete, on a basketball court with guys who are getting, college scholarships and such, because I feel like, I have that awareness of, cause I played this stuff my whole life. I've coached these sports my whole life, honestly, in my adult life. And so I feel like I understand, maybe the field or the court a little bit better. And so it just helps me in a lot of other ways. So I know it's probably branching out into several different topics, but it's just something I've started doing more lately again. I wasn't playing sports very often. I was basically just getting in my grind, kind of lifting, kind of do that Olympic lifting like you make fun of me about, and just kind of, going through my routine. But man, getting back into it, I know it's been a few years. I'm getting a little older now. It gets my blood like flowing. It gets it rushing. Like I get that like excitedness. Like, okay, I'm not just headed to the gym to go ahead and get a little pump on. I'm also going to go ahead and get my grind on. Get my grind on a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see if I can cross this guy over, or whatever it is. I'm going to beat that guy. It's always at the top of the leaderboard at the racquetball court. Whatever it is, I think it just gives me that extra oomph that I wouldn't usually get with a regular workout.
Do you think that spatial awareness was created from you playing sports your whole life, or do you think that's born? Do you think that's something that people can develop?
Man, I definitely think that you're born with a certain level. I think there's some people that are born that are just absolutely gifted in that they were meant, they were put on this earth to use that spatial awareness and some kind of athletic ability, and they're probably, famous for it these nowadays if that's what they were given. But I think it's definitely something that I developed. I think my family, overall, we're pretty healthy people who are pretty athletic for the most part. But none of us are professional athletes or anything like that. But I feel like I've always been able to hold my own. I think it is because I developed that spatial awareness from playing sports at such a young age.
I just always ask that question because when in Florida, I always used to run these CrossFit onramp courses. So it's basically introducing people to CrossFit. So we're going to go over all the lifts, Olympic lifting, all of the basic fundamental movements that we're going to be doing. And I could always tell right away when we would start, like, who I was working with, and there are a bunch of different terms for it. There's kinesthetic awareness, spatial,
sure.
What were you spatial orientation, and then there's my favorite is proprioception, which is really cool. And I
said coordination was the one I used.
Coordination, and they all pretty much use mean the same thing, and that's just being able to manipulate your body and in space and
right.
Yeah, be aware of it. So anyway, like coaching these classes and stuff, I would normally line people up, like, because we would break into a smaller group. So I would only have a few people, another coach would have a few people, and then I would normally teach like the Olympic lift or something, and I'd be like, okay, here, I'm going to do, a snatch. And I wouldn't give them really any instructions. I'd just be like, I'm just going to do this, and I want you guys to immediately mimic it after when I say go, and then I would know who I have to work with. Like, because there's some guys who just like, they had it, man. Like they had probably never really done the snatch before, but they're fairly coordinated and they have that spatial awareness, and so they knock out a snatch. And granted, it's not perfect, but I'm like, okay, we're gonna work on you. But then there's this other guy who's like, dude, you just broke a snatch, which should only be a few movements, like into like 47 different parts, and that looks like you're trying to catch a cat, like. And I've always found it interesting because that's how I'd break people down right away as a coach to know who I need to work with more. But I always had that question in my head as like, what happened? Like, how? Like, why does this guy know how to do it and you don't? Is it sports? Did he practice more? Like, they both told me you've never really done Olympic lifting before, and I'd always have that question in my head.
Right.
So that's why I was just asking if you think that playing sports growing up is a big part of that.
I definitely think so. I mean, there's so many examples of guys who are professional athletes now that played. I think I mentioned this even like maybe season 1, where there's guys who have played different sports and they grow up, playing. Maybe the example that I know about is a lot of basketball players nowadays in the NBA grew up playing soccer in Africa, right? And so that develops so many different skills for them. I think it really developed a lot of spatial awareness, like you mentioned. That otherwise guys wouldn't learn, maybe playing pickup basketball here in the States. And I think that's a good example of maybe, crossover from one sport to another. But I think that is also a good example of just the overall concept of what understanding how your body moves in space and being able to control that to your best ability can really do for you in so many different areas.
Yeah, and people can definitely lose it. I see that you said you're getting older, whatever. I could see people. I see people as they get older get more uncoordinated.
It's true.
And I can even see it in myself a little bit at times because I don't play a sport regularly. Work out all the time, but working out, no matter, I'll have the argument with anyone. CrossFit is not like a sport. Like, it's the sport of fitness or whatever, but it's just fitness. It's not like...
I used as an example as a sport earlier.
No, and it's fine. Like, I think that the way they compete now, it is, but like, to compare someone who can exercise really fast, like, let's break it down. That's what that is. And I have no problems with CrossFit. I like CrossFit. I'm just saying they can exercise really fast versus a LeBron James,
right?
In the completely different. Yeah, you can do a workout faster than LeBron James, but there's this whole different set of athleticism that you will never ever touch in your whole life. So
right.
to compare them is a little different. Can we call them both a sport? Absolutely. But as far as the coordination and athleticism goes, that's in a whole different ballpark, and I think that comes with regular practice. And bringing it back to what I was saying about myself, I can tell sometimes just throwing a ball with my son, I'll be like, man, I feel a little rusty there. Like, I feel like I could have thrown that ball and hit like a bullseye, at one point in my life, and now it's, something I have to work for. And it's just, you're out of practice. I think you can lose it too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that's something that I'm struggling with right now. It's like I texted my wife after I finished up, and it's like, man, this is tough. I can hardly remember how difficult this is. Something I used to do like 6 hours a day nonstop. Now just like playing one game is a struggle. But there are also days like the last day of our text her where you have a pretty good day and you hit a couple of shots or make a couple of goals or whatever, and those days come around. But I had a question for you. So I think you brought up a great point, and it's kind of basically the point that I have with this entire topic is that you said it's a whole different set of athleticism that LeBron James is using versus the CrossFit gamer. Mm-hmm. And could you elaborate? Like what do you mean? Like, I know they both have strong muscles, they both have big muscles, they both have like really low like fat percentage. What does it really come down to that he's using so much more athleticism?
What is LeBron James using?
Yeah. Like, what's so different about
him? I mean, you could break it down. I mean, you could cop out with saying talent, or... Sure, okay. Because I would call them both athletes, and I wouldn't take that away from either one of them. They're definitely both athletes, but I think, like, let's take the winner of the CrossFit Games this past year, Matt Frazier. He is probably, if I had to argue it, probably has more grit and is more mentally tough than LeBron James will ever be.
Okay.
And I believe that. And he can push himself and go to dark places that most people avoid their entire life. And LeBron James, in all honesty, probably doesn't go to those dark places in his workouts, but occasionally, because he doesn't have to. But that's fitness. That's being able to exercise quickly. LeBron James, he has talent. Does it take a lot of work? Absolutely. Was some of it born? Probably.
Sure.
Genetics and whatnot. So really the difference there, I don't want to say it's athleticism, because I do like to, it kind of is, because it depends on how you perceive that term athleticism, but ultimately what LeBron James has is talent versus, Matt Frazier's talent is probably mental toughness, if we really had to like boil it down to one thing. And then LeBron James' talent is basketball. He has so many talents, but it's basketball as a whole.
I think talent is a good way to put it, probably. I guess like what I'm trying to get to is like what causes like clutchness, right? Like what causes performance in a sport? It's something I feel like that is more so than just mental toughness or determination. I think you're probably right. This CrossFit dude has probably pushed himself to get his body to do what it can do much harder than LeBron's had to push himself to get his body to do what it can do. But it's something almost like, it's like touchy-feely. It's like something not there. It's like something magical that we can only like just think about. That's not really put a good definition on. But what makes, him be able to, like, what makes it different about when it's a sport, you know?
Yeah, if you're talking about that quality, then I do think that it's definitely in CrossFit and it's definitely in all sports.
Okay.
I don't see that in Matt Frazier as much as I did Rich Froning. So Rich Froning won the CrossFit Games 4 times in a row, but he was always coming down. Like, he would come back from these, like, he'd get last place in the second event and then have to be like money the rest of the entire, like, the rest of the 3 days or whatever to win, and he would always do it. He did it 4 years in a row, and so it's just, he wouldn't make a mistake. He was really good under pressure. Some people, when it's on the line, they operate better.
They just click it on. Yeah. So maybe would you say that sports maybe? And I think the example used by CrossFit is perfect because it definitely relates to like what sports does to you, forcing you to push yourself. But would you say that sports does that? Would you say sports helps you get there faster?
With that kind of mental ability to yeah, I think so. And this is something I mean, I really wish I was more involved in kind of the psychology of stuff like I am now and have been for the last several years when I was playing racquetball, like on the national level, because I would kind of just push away the thoughts and feelings that I was having pre-competition and stuff and the nervousness and whatnot. And I wish that I could really harness that and use it. But it gets forced on you is my main point. And so I do think that sports actually competing will do that to you, or playing a sport, because like there can be all these nerves and butterflies and all this stuff, but normally once you start and you're in it, that all kind of goes away, and now you're focused. And I think being able to turn that on, it was the same thing when I was in pilot training. I think I've told this story before. It's hilarious. When I first started doing check rides, I'd have so much stress that my body would start to basically shut down, and I'd get super sleepy, like yawning, like want to go to sleep. Like I'm in the cockpit, man. Like we're about to go. I'm like, but we're not actually doing anything yet. And then, but once it's like go time, like that all went away, and then it's like time to react. And I think your body almost learns this thing. Like, yeah, it's gonna have to deal with the stress. But you also need to learn how to turn it on when it is go time. And I think that sports is a huge way to practice that. That if you'd never practiced that, then I don't know what that's like. And I would be unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that's a funny point.
I've never not played sports.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So that's funny. I've gone through periods where I haven't played as much, but I think you summed it up perfectly. The reason probably I'm so passionate about it is because when you're out there doing it, you're in a state of focus. That's why I use this. My number one when I'm the best me is when I'm focused. And so I feel like sports forces that on you. It forces that on me. It forces me to kind of quiet everything else out, everything that's off the court, everything that's off the field, and just focus on this one moment and just kind of be present on this moment, getting the best me out of this moment. And so that's why I think sports makes everyone a better human.
That's why I wish I had that realization when I did play racquetball, because you probably do it on the court, right? You like people talk trash or whatever, and
oh yeah, I love talking trash.
The smarter guys are doing it intentionally to try and get in your head where you have a worse game and they win, right?
Sure.
Well, that's racquetball, because like if like there's all these little things people are trying to get in your head, do little things like toss the ball this way, get in your way, but just enough to where the judge wouldn't call it, and all this other stuff. And I wish I had more of the thoughts that you're saying, realizing that I just need to focus and but I'd get pissed, man. I would let let my temper get after me. And these days, I think if I went back and was trying to be competitive again, I'd be just so focused, like ignore the crap out of my opponent and just be like, look, dude, we're here to play. Yep. Like, let's go. So
I think there's definitely benefit to that, but I'm definitely one of those trash talking types. So
it's part of the sport. Like I don't deny it. Like that's why I don't normally today. I wouldn't get mad if someone was doing it. I'm like, dude, that's a good strategy. It's not going to work on me though.
Yeah, it's not going to break through you. Then it's just a good way to have fun for the other guy.
Cool, man. All right, well, that does it for this week's podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast, Better Humanology Podcast, go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and a positive comment in the iTunes. We would greatly appreciate it. We've seen a couple more roll in recently. And we really only ever ask at the end of the show because we know if you've made it this far in the show, you really love us, and we really love you. So go ahead and go leave that 5-star review and a positive comment. And until next week, or no, later in the week. Later.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Peace.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.